Allison again. So for this week, we're talking about the mental health topic. So for question number 1, how are learning and memory affected by age? Processing slower responses is common with elderly people. So as someone my age, you see something, remember it, you're very receptive. You see it and it goes right into your brain. Elderly people, they see it, it takes a little time to register, and they remember it, but they might need a little more time to think about it. So they just have slower responses, slower processing thoughts, and that's why they tend to come across slower. When in reality, they're just getting older, so things are starting to slow down. 2, about the myth of senility, maybe that's how it's pronounced, and consequences on mental health care. So for the myth, basically it's abnormal deterioration in mental functions, such as forgetfulness, confusion, and changes in behavior. So because you're old, you'll have a mental deficit. So I experience this a lot where I'm like, oh, I forget something, and my boss is like 80, and he's like, oh, it gets worse when you're older. So it's very common, even for elderly folks, to think just because you're older, that's why you forget something, or you get confused easily because you're older, when in general, it's actually a myth. And this could be the consequences on mental health care because of things like Alzheimer's or like even effects after a stroke. It's how do you prove things. So a lot of patients are missing out on health care that they deserve, or patients are receiving health care that they might not actually need, because how do you forget? How do you treat forgetfulness when it's just going to happen if you've never suffered from stroke or have early onset Alzheimer's, anything like that. For safeguards for the safe mental health, I actually found 4 that I thought fit really well. So for my first safeguard, I saw physical, which is hurt or harm deliberately through rough, careless, thoughtless behavior. So this could be by family members, by physical therapists, by hospital personnel, nursing home personnel, anybody, like grandchildren, children, even for that matter. It's hurting you physically. Emotional, bullying, you're being put down constantly. So you see this a lot in movies, like the kids picking on the older man in his yard, and he's like, get off my lawn. Well, that's emotional. They're getting at him. Financial. This is the biggest one I thought of. Just someone using your money in a way that you didn't intend for it to be used. So this could be a lot of scammers, and sadly, sometimes your own family members that you're letting them borrow money, but you say you do have Alzheimer's, you forget something, and you don't realize it, and they just keep going back for more. They're financially scamming you. And then we have neglect, which is not being given the things that make you feel safe or comfortable, which everyone should have. So this is, again, nursing homes, physical therapists, your own home, like loved ones. They should not neglect you because you need a little extra care, or you need someone to help you bathe, or help you eat. If someone's just not getting it to you, then that could be a neglect. So what is good mental health to me? I think good mental health is being happy with who you are. So not necessarily when you're older, but at my age, I'm 22. You have to be really confident in who you are for you to be mentally happy with yourself. If you constantly stress about body image or stress about anything else, like stress about school, everyone's going to have stresses. But if you're constantly stressing about how you look, adding on to the stresses of actual life, your mental health is not going to be there. So as you just grow up, that's going to always be in the back of your mind. So if you start now with a strong, positive mental health, as you get older, it can only gain from there. You're going to gain more stresses in life when you get married, have children, try and get a house, taxes. So it's good to have a strong, positive base, and I believe that's good mental health. What personality traits would be helpful for old age? Optimism. You always see the the elderly person that just gets down on himself because he's old. His life's over. Oh, I've lived my life. You have to live yours. Your life's not over just because you're 80. Like, there are tons of 80-year-olds who go skydiving. There are tons of 90-year-olds who are still out there trying to walk every morning. Like, your life isn't over. So I definitely think optimism is a personality trait. And then discipline, because you need to be disciplined throughout your life of not necessarily dieting, but watching what you're eating, knowing when you're going to work out, your life structure. Like, make sure you don't get in the routine of getting out of bed, going to the couch for 5 hours. Oh, I'm going to go take the dog out. Oh, I'm going to go back to bed. Like, you don't want to get in that lifestyle. You have to discipline yourself to get up and be active and do those things and live your life. And then, I know it's not really a personality trait, but again, back to the mental health of just have good mental health and be happy with yourself. You might not have lived the life you wanted, and you might not have had your dream job or did something you wanted, but there's still time. If you didn't travel to Europe, there's no reason you can't try to travel to Europe just because you're 75 and, you're not dead. So I just think it's definitely staying optimistic and going for it. It's not sitting down and, oh, pity me. To the TED Talk, I picked out a few key points. So during her morning of the stroke segment, when she was drifting out of consciousness and then she felt lighter and her stresses were gone, I thought that was really interesting because my grandma experienced a stroke and it was just kind of cool to hear someone that went through it, how you experience it. Because you could, they had a stroke, but you don't understand that they're still there. But they're in and out of la la land, as she kept saying. And then during her stroke, I thought it was incredible when she was talking about the phone call. And she was saying how she was matching the shapes on the squiggles to the phone. And then she would use her arm to cover the numbers on the cover so she knew which one she already dialed. That was incredible. If I was having a stroke, I don't know if I would have thought of that. That shows incredible willpower. And then when she woke, she could hear sounds and she could identify things, but she couldn't identify things at the same time. She could not ID voices, but everything was very loud to her. And she felt like her body was very large and in space. So she was very, I'm here, but I'm not here. And overall, I just took out of it, she had such a positive outlook on the whole experience. So the fact she can go up and talk and recount, this happened to me and everything happened, is just so incredible. So yeah, that's my post for the week. Bye.